I know that you touched on Maslow's hierarchy of needs as well. And I think that's, again, something that I've learned, but I didn't think about it in the context that you were putting it in. Whenever I learned about it, it was that it was something that I thought about in the context of me right now. Like, do I have all my needs? Am I safe? Do I have food? Do I have some purpose? And I never reflected back to, did I have those things when I was younger, and is that impacting how I'm feeling these things now? So how did you kind of really make those connections, and how do you talk about that with clients or people in general?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I strangely became so obsessed with that hierarchy the moment that I learned about it. Like, I was 16 years old and I was like, this is why I'm so fucked up. Like, the bottom is physiological needs: shelter, sex, food, water, sleep. And I was like, this is all messed up for me. Like, my upbringing was terrible. Sorry, mom. And like, so I wasn't capable of building places where I belonged and loving relationships and a stable job and a stable income. And for a long time, until I realized that that was the problem. And so, I mean, I just like fell in love with it immediately. Like, some people they hear something and that's what they roll with. And so I just took that hierarchy and automatically applied it to the one thing that helped me in my life, which was reparenting. And all I'm doing when I'm reparenting is looking at who I was or who I became as a result of my environment, internally and externally, over the course of my life, looking at it in each of those ways, and then figuring out how, like, and they're intermixed. Like, if you're having an issue with the third level, which is love and belonging, then that can impact your lower levels as well. It's not just a bottom-up process. And so I put it in the context of reparenting, and anyone can reparent themselves. Even someone that has, and I get this question asked a lot with people I'm working with, I don't have a problem with my childhood. My parents raised me great. Okay, well, what about the cultural parent? What about the societal parent? What about the governmental parent? What about the global parent? You know, parent is just someone that's supposed to take care of you, supposed to teach you, supposed to mirror you and give you space to be yourself. And so reparenting, even in the racial context, is like taking what you were not provided from your government or your society in the meso and the macro levels of your life, and micro if you need to look at your own family. It's like these systems and these individuals that were supposed to help us thrive, and either consciously or unconsciously, overtly or covertly, intentionally or unintentionally, didn't do that. And it's figuring out why they didn't do that, what parts weren't working for you, and then what you want to do about it. So I just got attached to it, and I realized that what caused me to heal was going level by level and figuring that out, applying it in the context of my own creation, everyone and everything that has ever created me. And then, who am I really? And so that's what I do with everyone that sits in front of me, is we break it down. We break it down level by level. And we start with the ones, especially because I'm working with people that put something in their body that could have make them lose their lives in a physiological way. We start at the bottom. I don't always start at the bottom. But the goal is, and this is something I talked about in my dissertation too, is like, most interventions stop at the fourth level. Okay, so we have physiological, we have safety and security, love and belonging, and then esteem for ourselves and esteem coming from others. A lot of it stops and doesn't go to self-actualization and self-realization. And the thing is, we need it, at least in this theoretical context, we need it. And so that's kind of why I focused on that in my dissertation, is like, hello, we're dealing with human beings, and 60 to 80% of them are taking a substance that could literally kill them. Why? Because we're not taking a look existentially at the top of that pyramid. And it helps people, you know, I think in general, also the fact that it's broken up into categories of 5, and there's a lot more categories within each of them, but it helps create a map for the client. It helps them understand that there are all of these elements of life that they need to take a look at and figure out, where is it lacking? Where is it excessive? and how can they find their own homeostasis and balance for what they want outside of whatever anyone else has ever told them that they're supposed to want.
Yeah, there's a really important piece of that, like guide when people are feeling lost.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated your explanation on reparenting as well, that you touched on, in that like reparenting, like if you had a good childhood, you don't have to say that you're like bashing your parents and you're just like changing things. It can just be just like a positive adaptation that you've had to go through. Um, I think one of the examples that you gave on your podcast was healthy eating. And that's something that didn't really get preached too much. Like of course I ate good when I was younger, but healthy eating was not something that was emphasized. And I more so had to learn it myself. And I'm grateful for social media on that point, to be honest. Uh, but like, that's something that I kind of reparented a little bit, and it wasn't something that was really traumatic. But it was still something. And yeah, I just appreciated that it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be angry and have that anger there in order to do this. Cause that, I know that can be a factor that can kind of inhibit this process as well. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that you're right. You know, obviously, when we're processing our lives, our emotions are going to come out. And if you process appropriately, then those emotions should lessen. So if you're not angry, wonderful. And if you are, once you're not, you've made progress. Once it's not, you know, not denial or not pushing it down in any way, then if the emotion lessens, then you're making progress. And of course, it may get worse at first, but then the goal is like, I'm not mad at my parents because I've traced their behaviors. I know that they have a truth within them. I know that they would have made better choices and different choices if they could. And that allows me to not hold on to the resentment. And that's part of reparenting also, is you don't only ask what you didn't get, you ask why you didn't get it. And so you can actually connect more with the people that you think have hurt you so badly. And of course there's intentional pain, but most of the time, and I bag on parents a lot on my social media. People think I'm like so against them, but like I love my parents, and most people would be like they were terrible parents, and I just don't feel that way. And I'm a parent and I get it. I mean, I'm only a parent to a 2-year-old, but I get it. I totally get it. And so yeah, it's like it's the tracing so that you release your own blame, and so that you stop blaming other people, and you realize that we're all in this web of emotion that's confusing and bodies that we don't understand. We're all just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And I think, like, to use your own words to further validate your point, is a parent doing something that maybe didn't feel like it was the right thing in the moment could very well have been an autopiloted response to a situation that they were in when they were a kid, and they haven't worked through that yet. So yeah, like finding that, tracing that back and identifying, you know, what happened, and then maybe saying like, dang, maybe I feel like maybe we can bond over this, or like we both shared this, or like maybe I need to show more empathy towards the situation that they were in, or something like, yeah, I think that's a really powerful like tracing process to like really give yourself the understanding that you may be looking for. Because, and I think you preach this a lot in your content too, is like understanding why you're doing what you're doing is it's almost like that whole like acceptance thing in or like admitting you have a problem in AA or whatever it may be. I think that's such a huge piece of, I mean, for me, whenever I've gone through anything, just like understanding like, wait, why did I do that, is like half of the battle. Because once I understand it, I'm like, dang, okay, like next time I'm going to notice that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can, you know, take the next steps. I was also thinking in there about the whole idea of reparenting. How much from your perspective do you think that the Maslow hierarchy of needs can be used as like a pre-parenting type of a structure? Because I think that, you know, if we're thinking about all of these things as things that we need to like go back and like find for ourselves, I feel like it would also be the ideal framework for a parent who's like about to get into this.
Yes. And I love that you said that, because as parents, we get so overwhelmed. Like, it's just so overwhelming trying to figure out how to raise a human being when honestly, we're always still raising ourselves. Like, I thought I was prepared and I know a shit ton about a shit ton. And there are days when I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, I don't know what to do in this moment. And it's normalizing that. So that's why I brought that up. It's like, people can know everything, and human beings are enormous variables. Each one of us has enormous variables. And so I think it'd be great to put it into context and like realize, like, along with maybe psychosocial development, is like, what's going on throughout these different stages. And that's actually, if you think about it, this hierarchy, it's kind of how our life works, or an ideal way of how our life would work. You know, initially we're just focused on eating, sleeping, and drinking and bonding. And then the next level up is like, we're waiting for our parents to make sure that we have a roof over our head and that they make enough money so that we can have the resources that we need for the bottom level. And then it's love and belonging. Are you nurtured? You know, are you? And then it's esteem. It's like we get peer groups and we get jobs and we want recognition for our achievement. But then it's that final piece that's missing. And so it's like, if parents were to focus on that, I think we'd have way more enlightened beings. You know, I named my son Bodhi, which means enlightenment and awakening. And I'm like, let's pray this helps. But like, and it probably will.
Start 'em young.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like, because for me, like in my life and in my husband's life, it was that top piece of the pyramid that was missing. And I wanted to consciously, because I have a subconscious and an unconscious part of me, I wanted to always consciously remember that that is the key to living the life that you want to live. Is I want to help him find self-actualization, and I want to help him find the real him and not miss that while I'm trying to be the parent that provides him these other 4 aspects as well.
I was just thinking to myself in that moment too, like when I was listening to you talking about the reparenting idea, I was like, dang, I am putting this on my wall when I have a child. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to make sure like this is going to be a to-do list every day, you know? So yeah, I really like that whole reparenting idea, because I think it's just such a great framework for so many other, just like, I mean, I think as communities of people, like we're like social animals, like we're meant to be. So I think to go one step even beyond parenting, and you even said this, like the cultural, societal structures that we live in, I think it even helps people be more conscious of like, how am I serving those needs of others in the communities that I operate in? So I think it's just like a hugely beneficial. And I think, you know, I didn't even get it until college when I took a sports psychology class. And in that, it was like, wasn't really contextually there. So I feel like it could be implemented and a lot of people would benefit from it from such an earlier age.
Yeah.